In with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Keaton Podcast. I'm Max Rabin.
And I am Brent Jackson.
Brent, we have a very special guest today. It's Patrick Chauvin from Compass Real Estate here in Washington, D.C. Patrick is a legend of D.C. real estate.
He's almost like the founder of D.C. real estate.
He's one of those guys. Like he is, he's obviously like a superpower player, one of the top agents that I've ever known. So Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
And one of the nicest guys too. I mean, it's
totally.
That was my goal in real estate, because everybody was kind of, it could be a nasty business, was to be nice to every agent.
Well, you've succeeded.
You are, yeah. Always greeted with a smile and a proper handshake. You're the right attitude, man. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Sure.
So we were talking before the show. I think we had a good quarter of the podcast already chatted out before we started. But let's go back. Let's talk about where you're from and how you got started in real estate. You had a great story about working in Manhattan. We want to know all that stuff.
Sure. So I grew up outside in New Orleans. Went to high school in New Orleans. Went to college in New Orleans as well, and was just going to work for my family business. And one of my friends from college was from Manhattan. So like 3 years after graduation, called me up. He's like, he said, there's this new company being started in Manhattan, and you would really be great for this. And it was Steve Rebell and Ian Schrager from Studio 54, who had just gotten out of jail for tax evasion and was starting Morgan's Hotel Group. And they had Morgan's Hotel on, I guess, Madison Avenue already, and It was like a success. So I knew nothing, had never been to New York, didn't know who they were, nothing. And so I fly up, interview with Steve Rebell. It was like the worst experience ever. Fly back home, and he calls me like the next week, and he's like, be here next week, and here's where you're going. And it was like they had just bought the Paramount, which is off of Times Square, and it was a rat-infested, like 700-room old hotel.
When was this, like the 90s?
This was 80s? 86, 87.
Okay.
It's the real New York.
Yes, this was New York when you ran.
Right.
Basically, Times Square was not safe. It was like, and I'm like, I remember just laying in bed like the first night. I'm like, what the hell did I do here? But it was a journey. But anyway, long and short, I ended up working for them till 91. Opened the Royalton, reopened the Paramount after they renovated it. Actually lived in the Barbizon, which they had bought for a year, which was on the Upper East Side.
What were you doing for them? Like, what were you helping with?
So I was live-in manager. So I was just Monday through Friday was lived in the hotel, and just kind of oversaw pretty much the night shift. Make sure everything was in line. But it was good. It was interesting. I had no experience in that, but learned on the way.
What did you go to school for? What was your degree?
Business.
Business.
Yeah.
So you were like doing like kind of it's like intense hospitality management.
Hospitality, but it was like like the Royalton. When we opened the Royalton, and I was living there, there was a waiting list for 7 months to stay there.
Wow.
We had everybody. I met Janet Jackson, Madonna, Fine Young Cannibals. Like all these late 80 bands and stuff. It was really interesting. It's very interesting thing.
How much were the rooms back then?
I'm trying to think. Maybe the suites were like $250.
Wow, that's
maybe.
crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, I was telling Max early before you got here. So Steve Rebell dies, and it's Ian. And so they were going to open the Delano in South Beach. Mm-hmm. Me being from the South, and I had been to Miami, there was nothing. Zero in Miami then. I'm like, Ian, I can't do that, And he's like, well, I think we're kind of done here. And that's how they ran their whole.
We're done in New York.
Like you were disposable
right.
at any given time. So how I lasted that long, I have no idea. But anyway, so we split ways. I had two friends at Georgetown Law School. I'm like, I've never really been to Washington, D.C. I'm going to stay for like a week. I'm driving back to New Orleans, meet my friends, and I meet Bill Moody. And he like talked me into staying in Washington D.C.
Bill Moody, one of the founders of Washington Pine Properties
Correct.
in Washington D.C. Yeah.
Yes, and so Bill and I actually became a team. His roommate was Tom Anderson, who's also one of the owners of Washington Pine Properties, was vice president of Sotheby's then, and Pardo was becoming the affiliate of Sotheby's, and they're like, we would like to have you guys like run the affiliation, because nobody really knew. Sotheby's used to have their own office here,
Right.
and they closed all their offices. It was less expensive to affiliate with one company than run their own company, and so that's how that started. But we moved here knowing no one other than my two friends from Georgetown Law School, and it was just like 24/7.
How did you meet Mr. Moody?
So Bill actually met out at a bar,
Okay.
and so we just started talking, and then he actually called my dad and talked my dad into letting me stay, because my dad was like, you should come back to Louisiana, and I forget, well, I could do the math, but my age then, but yeah, so that's how I
So
got into
a little random, a little happenstance, and
yeah, life's a journey.
Yeah.
If you don't take risks, you don't know where that's going to take you.
So how does that start? So again, you're in D.C. You're not familiar with the area. You're now acquainted with Pardo.
So honestly, so we started doing open houses for some of the big agents, because Pardo was not it was a very small company, but did the majority of all the business
right.
in D.C. Or the upper end business. And so we would go, and the agents didn't want to do condos. They were too big to do condos. So we would do the opens, and that's where we met Jonathan, we met Michael. We were like the condo kings of DuPont Circle. And that's how we got started. And then everybody started moving or getting married or whatever, having, it was just a chain reaction
Right.
through the whole thing. But we got our real start when Pamela Harriman decided to sell her house. She was ambassador to France under the Clintons, which is how we got to the Clintons,
Right.
so to speak. And it was a friend that we had met who had a condo in DuPont Circle, who knew the banker of Pamela Harriman, and they got us in, and we got the listing, and it was like a newsworthy kind of thing.
So you got this lead from doing an open house.
Basically, correct.
Interesting.
If you follow the chain,
Right, yeah.
correct.
Max, we got to start. Well, you're doing open houses. I need to get back on the open house chain.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Hey.
the easiest way to.
you never know who's going to walk in.
Exactly, and you don't. And I preach that. I don't know if anybody listens, but you want to build your business, inexpensively
Right.
through an open house.
But another thing we were talking about, and we've had these kind of conversations with some of our other guests too, is, from this generation, like people who started in our industry here in this city in the 1990s and even in the early 2000s, it was still. I mean, obviously, there's always been a real estate market here, but it was still very upstarty. It was like a growing city at that point.
So when I moved to DC, to DC, like Georgetown was probably half vacant. It was the Barry years of
Right.
Washington
Right.
D.C. I mean, trash didn't get picked up. It was, interest rates were 14-15%, and if you had an assumable mortgage, you were like golden, because that assumable rate was probably less than the going rate.
And you're talking about Georgetown. What about like areas like where we record here in DuPont Circle or Logan Circle?
So honestly, you would not walk east of 17th Street.
Yeah, that's what I
Not even walk.
Right.
I mean, you just did not go.
There was nothing
east.
to go to. So
True.
fair enough.
True. I mean,
Yeah.
DC was a mess. So was New York City.
Yeah.
As
Right.
well. So to me, it was like no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But
So where did you live during this time? Georgetown?
DuPont Circle.
DuPont Circle?
Mhm.
So you were right on
And
the
then so I
fringe.
actually ended up living with Bill for like 6 years. So we worked basically 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Just nonstop. And Bill had gotten divorced, had 2 kids, had alimony, from Greenwich, Connecticut, so it was not cheap. And I can remember laughing. He and I, we used to go to the DuPont Italian Kitchen, and we'd order one plate of spaghetti with 2 meatballs, and that's all we could afford to do, and we'd split it. But the bread was free, so we'd keep asking for more bread. True story.
Good story.
Yeah, but yeah, so we got our real, big lead, I guess, into the upper end business was through Pamela Harriman, and I don't know if you remember Rob Brown, Todd Davis. They were interior designers, decorators.
I think that I remember the names. Yeah.
And so somehow they met the Clintons had gotten a hold of them before they left the White House to whatever they were going to do to decorate their house.
Mm-hmm.
They had bought the Hollerith house.
Oh, really?
The first time it was sold since the estate.
Okay.
The estate sold it, and it was a sealed bid. And back then, there were, it was crazy to hear of multiple offers on anything. And
Wait,
there
the
were multiple
Clintons
offers.
owned the Hollerith house?
What's that?
The Clintons?
No. So Rob Brown, Todd Davis.
Ah, I got you. Okay.
Did, and
Okay.
but they threw, a bunch of campaign
Got it.
parties at the house.
So can you just free from our own education here? Like, what is that house for our
on
listeners?
So he
28th.
was a founder of IBM.
Okay.
And built the house.
Right.
And so it was on. They had like a little farmhouse, but it was like a huge piece of property, and they were going to split it, the estate. And I think it was built in 29, maybe.
Which neighborhood?
Georgetown.
Georgetown. Okay.
Yep.
It resold
29th
again.
Street,
I think it's 29th Street. And I resold again recently for
like 12, 15
something
or
in the
something.
12 to 15
it was,
range.
It was
It's a pretty
beautiful.
amazing property, and what's really amazing is it goes front to back. It goes from 29th to 28th
28th,
Street. Like
yep.
the yard goes all the way back to 28th Street.
Interesting.
And so they were splitting it was like basically they had the whole from the middle of the block up to our street and from 29th to 28th.
Mm-hmm.
It was like amazing piece of property. But
Interesting.
so they split it, and you had to do a sealed bid to the estate. And Rob Brown, who was a friend of Matt McCormick's, which is how we got Rob Brown as a client, they put in a bid and got it.
Wow.
And so one thing led to another, and then so the Clintons got a hold of us, and that's another interesting story as well.
A story that you can go into?
Yeah,
Tell us about the
for
Clintons.
sure.
Yeah, please.
And it was actually an amazing experience. But so originally they were going to rent, and they had looked at a rental probably 6 months before they were leaving the White House on Whitehaven.
Mm-hmm.
And
So they were always destined to want to be on Whitehaven, I guess.
so yes, but the people didn't want to sell. I mean, the people only didn't want to rent it. They only wanted to sell.
Right.
And so they go through the process. We end up meeting them, take them around. It was an amazing journey because you had Secret Service come in and everything was to the second.
Are you in the car with them? Or
We
they're in their
used to
own
be in the
car?
motorcade
Okay.
with them, or especially when he was coming. She would come. So it was exciting. And Secret Service would call you, but everything was timed to the minute. And so they invite us to have dinner at the White House, and so it was fun. I flew my dad up, and it was amazing. So anyway, long and short, we write an offer, ratify on one of our listings in Wesley Heights. And so it was like the 22nd of December. And so I'm like, all right, Bill, I'm flying home to go, for Christmas. He was flying to Connecticut, for Christmas. And I'm watching the news, and it's like the Clintons have bought blah, 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 Whitehaven. It was, it was on the news. And I'm like, you gotta
What?
be kidding me. I'm like, I just literally flew from the home inspection to New Orleans. And the people, I guess, got wind that they had
They
an
were
offer
buying.
on this house somehow, some way, and said, you know what, we'll sell. Or they wanted to rent the house.
Mhm.
Right.
I had it backwards. They wanted to rent the people. The people. Did I get that right? Yeah, didn't want to sell. Decide to sell after they heard that they had a contract and something else, and they got Whitehaven with another agent who
Oh.
showed it to them.
So you did not represent them on
No,
Whitehaven.
no.
That's not a funny story. That's a sad story.
Well, it
was an
it is.
adventure.
But it was a great experience. Like, but even after that, like there was no. I was a little shocked, but there was no. It was a great experience for us, and I remember like a year maybe after that, because I think she was senator maybe of New York, right? Within the year, and I was at a restaurant with like 6 friends, and she walked in with another senator, and came up to the table. Patrick, how are you? Introduced me to your friends. She was how she remembered these things, I have no idea.
Well,
she met thousands
career
of people.
politician, she better remember.
I know, but think of how many people.
Yeah,
like
true.
It was amazing to me.
I've heard they're always one of the best at remembering names, like Bill and Hillary.
Yeah,
That they just remember everybody's name.
It was great, and I have notes written from them and pictures at the White House with them and stuff like that.
You still stay in touch with them?
Not anymore, no.
Because you got to assume they're going to sell at some point, right? Like that's somebody you put in your CRM, and
They're like, we should be. You think we would
your
be doing
mailers.
that, but it was like, if there's one thing that I would redo is that. Like we just had so much business,
Sure.
right.
it didn't matter, and so we never kept track. I still don't have a CRM.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about your business though. So, obviously, timing is a lot for people in any business, right?
Yes.
When you enter a certain field, who that's always going to be an important factor. There's always a little bit of luck and some skill, right?
Totally.
But what are some other secrets to like what makes you successful? Obviously, being a friendly person, being there like on schedule, making sure that you're always behind the details. What are some other things that you always set out to do to make sure you were successful?
So a lot of networking, and it's a lot of going to a lot of functions. Even when you don't want to, and just be, it's like just, the Kennedy Center was a big help to me, and I enjoy it.
So when you say the Kennedy Center,
Yeah.
can you go into the details? Like, what are you doing at the Kennedy Center?
So I'm on the national committee for the performing arts
Mhm.
for them, and I'm actually on the executive committee, and then I'm on the Circles board as well. So the national committee, we meet 2 or 3 times around the country, and you just meet all of these. Wealthy people interested in the arts or interested in education, arts and education, which is what we do.
Yeah.
And we're there to raise money.
Yeah.
But you do get to meet, a lot of people. But for me, it was always about networking. Like I always networked. I went out to dinner. I always met people's friends. It was just nonstop. That's how you created your business.
Mm-hmm. So even going back to the Kennedy Center, like when you're networking with these people, I mean, I've always said like weather, traffic, real estate, the conversation always comes back to that. I mean, you're ever spamming these people or?
It does come to real estate, and you'd be amazed to hear, because I listen, and people would start talking about real estate, and I knew who their agent was, or I wouldn't jump in on that, but if I was ever asked, I'd definitely
give your
do
opinion.
it. But yeah, it's like you needed to be up on the news a bit, because these people are definitely in a different world than I am.
They're in the news.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But that helped a lot. Fair Chance, which was a nonprofit, which was a great organization as well. I met a lot of people through that. So for me, it was really more about giving back, and you give a lot of money.
Right.
But I feel like it's worth it. I get business from it too.
Absolutely. Yeah, charitable endeavors, obviously, it's like we talked about this with other folks too, and it's not, obviously you can leverage those relationships for this type of business, but if you find something that you're passionate about and it's something that you feel good about, then you should be involved in that.
Exactly.
Right.
No, exactly. It's like I didn't do it to get something back out of it. That was just a benefit of it. But I don't go there hunting.
Right.
For it. But it was there are a couple.
Yeah, well, they'll
people
see
who
that
do.
coming a mile away anyway,
Yeah.
right?
No, exactly. And so,
Yeah.
I like giving back.
But
Yeah,
you
I think
say
it's important. Like you've got to be passionate about what you're doing, so you pay it forward you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yes.
And then ultimately, like I've always said, like I said earlier, traffic, weather, real estate, the conversation always comes back to one of those three topics.
Yes, I agree with that. And that's kind of what I miss from the beginning. I don't know. Did we cover that already?
I don't know.
About, going to brokerage office, getting keys. You had to remember every
Right.
telephone number.
The old school way of
The
doing
old
things.
school was, you really got to know the people in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Today, you really don't.
Well, you can host a podcast and bring them into a room.
Listen, I love this idea, actually. I think it's a great thing to do.
I'm sure this is the longest we've sat and actually chatted, but the relationships were, like you said, used to be different. When I went to my office when I first started in the business, 2000, 2001, there were 40 agents in that office, and I was in the office every day because there was office work to do. It's a little fragmented now, right?
100%.
And so, that's how I developed all these relationships with all these new people in the business. We visited broker open houses. There wasn't thousands of digital photographs and TikToks and reels.
Exactly.
And,
you did everything.
You had to be on the ground.
Absolutely. And honestly, the agents were half the battle.
Yeah.
In your success of getting things done. And I learned that early on in like Gene Smith, a bunch of old timers, Suzanne Goldstein,
Sure.
Judy Levin, these were all really big agents back
Yes.
then. And they just kind of, because I was much younger than these guys, and they really just kind of took me in and respected me right from the get-go. But I think it's how you present yourself to people.
That's one thing I missed. You mentioned the broker open. So when I got in, I remember getting in every Tuesday, Jonathan or Michael's car. We'd go around and look at property all day Tuesday from 11 to 2, and we'd have our office meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm finding like the broker opens are non-existent, and the
There's
ones
like
that
10
they
in
do,
the entire city. On a
it's like
Tuesday.
4 to 6. It's a happy hour, and like
Yeah.
for me, like that
I can't
doesn't
do
work
that.
after 4.
Yeah, and I'm not a big believer in the food-driven brokers
Mhm.
opens, because I'd rather have someone come because they want to
wanna
find out
see the
about
real
the
estate.
property
Yeah.
instead
Right.
of eat or drink. And so I'm not a big. We do it because everyone
Is doing it.
is doing it.
Yeah.
But this is how the industry has changed, and it's changed a lot. And brokers opens, that's how you learn the inventory. People hire you for your knowledge, actually. And there's very few people that can. DC is very interesting because it's the same houses sell over and over.
Right.
Most people don't realize that, but it's like a cycle. And like you and I think you started before. Who started first?
Max
A
started
little
before
earlier.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's I can probably walk most people through almost every house that's for sale.
Yeah.
And same thing with the luxury condo market. I
Right.
know almost every unit, and that's what people hire you for. It's not necessarily your skills, or you need to know what you're doing, but it's really the knowledge and be able to just spout. This has this. This is why you should pay this. This is why you shouldn't pay this. And I'm
Yeah.
a big believer in telling buyers, don't buy that.
Yeah.
Don't pay that. Even if I may not get in the sale for 2 more years. It's about being brutally honest with your client, and people appreciate that. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there are, as you know, there's agents in our business who don't do that.
So what's an example if you would tell somebody not to buy something?
So, they're like, and this has happened many times, and I'm trying to think of a specific property. I can't. But there have been clients where, the negatives of the house they weren't seeing. They were seeing other aspects of the house, and it was a Georgetown house. I can't remember which, and I was like, guys, this house has sold before, and it took X amount of time to sell. And here's why, and those things are still there, and you can't change them.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know that going in. I said, I always look at, because most people move around DC, I totally look at the resale of this house, not the current market value. What could if you guys call me and say, hey, we're moving, come list the house, I want to make sure I can sell it.
Right.
So when you're going in, there were some properties, pay 100 over the ask. It's worth it, but when it wasn't worth it, I absolutely
I'm the same way.
chimed in.
I'm the same way. Like, I'm working with some buyers right now, and they were showing some interest in a house in Georgetown, and I walk in and I go immediately like, guys, bedrooms here, smallish. Okay, so
I'll give you an actual example right now as well. So I have clients who are in a specific neighborhood, and I'm not going to say which property, but it's on for like $7 million.
Mhm.
And these people only want to move within a specific little area of DC, or they're not moving. And there's only one house for sale. And so we're there, and it like checked off all the boxes. But there's like two problems with the house, and one was the bedrooms, and the master bedroom, which was teeny tiny, and I think it's almost impossible to correct that. And then the kitchen was like teeny tiny, and so you had to come in and blow out you had to rearrange the house, and it's not worth it.
I don't know which house it is, but I can think of 3 houses on the market right now that are listed for $7 million that have the similar kinds of problems.
Yeah,
and I think that's why they're not sold. So
no, exactly, and so I'm having this conversation with the listing agent who I know really well, and I'm like, this is the conversation we're having, and this is the struggle, and I have a struggle with it. I don't want them to pay this price.
Okay, so this segue into like sort of a separate, like very inside baseball kind of conversation though. For luxury properties right now, we've seen like a huge run up in overall real estate value nationwide, and especially in DC in the last 4 years. And we're seeing some of these luxury properties tick up. Like it's like another million. Now it's another million, right?
True,
and it's
yeah.
like, God bless, like good for the folks that could have been in at any point, right? And suddenly like their $3 million house is a 4.5, and then et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But what about the like aspirational pricing for some of these, like in terms of a house that might be on the market for a 7s or something like that, where it's got some inherent flaws, things that would require a lot of money to change? What do you tell a seller who is looking for something like that?
On the seller side, I think it's a little different because inventory is just so low, which is the other reason why I think if I were I don't think I'd be a buyer today unless I had to be.
I hear you. Yeah.
Luxury condo market, different story. You may want to be a buyer today.
Yeah.
Maybe not a seller.
Well, okay.
But the single family housing market, Max, you're right. But it's the thing that's driving the prices is the inventory.
Super lack of inventory. In these prime
and some of these houses just really, those of us who've been in business a long time, I just don't think it's worth. They will be at some point. So
I get a little shocked sometimes.
So my speech is, listen, if you're going to be here 15 years, who cares $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000? It's putting a price on your happiness and enjoying coming home to this every day. And so, like these buyers, I'm like, don't pay this for this. Just let it sit. If it sell, what number are you going to kick yourself? That's what you need to know, and that's what I need to know. If it sells for this a number, what would that number be?
Yeah.
When you're kicking yourself, like, why didn't I do it?
Yeah.
I think again, we're in like Cleveland Park, Capitol Hill. Like we do a lot of like urban DC, and we've seen like a resetting of the market where a lot of these buyers are coming from that setting to Upper Northwest, Northern Virginia, Montgomery County. Lack of inventory, those markets are doing very well right now. But we have homes all across like the urban setting that they're just sitting there.
Yeah, and I think that was I think that was a very COVID driven kind of thing to begin with. Even though COVID's not, I think there was a mass exodus out of the urban areas, people with children and going to school.
Correct. And now they can work from home, so it's like they have to go in the office one day a week.
No,
so
exactly.
From wherever is not as bad versus going in 5 days.
Guys, I was driving back from a soccer match at the Boyd's soccer complex the other day. It's far. We came back like the other way, like through Darnestown into Potomac, and I was like, Darnestown, it's pretty nice out here. It's not cheap, by the way.
Yeah,
I discovered this as I was like looking, and low inventory.
Yeah.
And that's the suburban market right now.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There was an area in Maryland I'd never been to, and it's like the Potomac it's way out, but I can't even remember. But I had people moving from Chevy Chase, and they were moving out there for the school district, and it is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't even know this existed, and not cheap either.
Not cheap.
That's a good segue as well. I mean, do you have a niche market that you're like, you kind of zero in, or you're known for this?
So good question, and I think it's really interesting. So for me, like Bill and I, we were big listing agents, and it just happened that way. It wasn't like that was our goal to be, but we just became big listing agents, which gives you the opportunity to advertise yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you really can't do it as a buyer broker. You know, what do you?
It's a tough business model as a buyer.
Yeah, exactly. It's listings and sell. You know, that's how you market yourself. But it's very interesting. Your market kind of follows you where you go, or at least in my experience, that's kind of what happened. Because I used to live in Spring Valley, you know, before the Ritz was built. I sold the most houses in Spring Valley than any other agent to this day. But I don't have. It's, you know, my market has totally moved to downtown West End, you know, Georgetown a little bit, and we used to do a lot in Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just kind of go where your business takes you.
Right.
What was the impetus? Because I remember your house in Spring Valley. Why did you shift gears and move to the Ritz and start doing the condo thing?
So the interesting, good question. So I had a small house in Spring Valley, and then I had a big house in
Okay.
Spring Valley. So before I had the big house, the small house floods from the city. One, like the sewer. Something happened in the sewer, and it ran through the house for like 24 hours. Anyway, long and short, the insurance company, the Ritz, had opened.
Yeah.
And they couldn't, I don't know, they couldn't give them away back then. And so the insurance company rented me an apartment at the Ritz. I go back, sell the house, and this is when the market's changing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it changed like in 98,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, it's starting to ramp up.
Quadrupled what I paid for that house.
Yep.
Begged these people who had a bigger house down Loughborough. It was kids. They were the original owners, and saw them in the yard. And I was like, you know what? This is all the money I have. I want to buy this house. I bought it, but living in the Ritz, you know, I really enjoyed it. And you know, I had never really been urban since I was in D.C. Too much, and so it was nice to do that. So I went back, sold the big house, and bought a bigger apartment at the Ritz. And so then I think I've had owned 4 different apartments at the Ritz and 3 at 22 West.
Oh wow. Okay.
Since 2001.
Yeah.
So you move around from.
I like to move around. Now I'm kind of, you know, when you get a little older, Max, it's like. You know,
So what are you
tell me
looking
about
for?
it.
I'm just curious. Like, you moving around within a 1 block radius, like something comes on, or you're looking for something?
I always say sell when you don't have to.
Right.
And so if somebody approached me, like, I had a big apartment at the Ritz, and someone approached me, you know, Adrienne Arsh was flying into town from, I didn't know who she was either.
Mm-hmm.
Only wanted a penthouse at the Ritz, and there were none on the market, and called me up and said, hey, would you show your apartment? You know, she wrote it. I threw out some crazy number because it wasn't on the market. She agreed to pay it, but I had to move out. I had to move out in 5 days.
Oh wow.
I was like, done.
Yeah, at that number.
Had town and country there. Like, I was out. Didn't know where I was going. I was like, yeah. It's like, yeah, but you can do that when you don't have children.
Right.
Fair
you know,
enough.
And you can do that when you're an agent too. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like
Yeah.
some agents are flexible like you. I mean, I've always been the same way. It's like our house is always for sale. Like if you have a client, you're out and about, and there's just no inventory. Like,
Right.
well, this is available,
Right.
but there's going to be a premium for it.
Right. Exactly. And always sell when you don't have to.
Right. That's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played the game of like never sell anything for a while, and then like
Well,
I
I always say if you want to be successful in real estate, adopt a child. That's what all the single agents would say, you know, because like you know, Michael's done extremely well
for sure
from school.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Liz Shore did extremely well. You know, there's
Yeah.
lots of people who most of their business came from school.
Yeah.
So I think
I've
adopting a child might be.
I mean, look, I am currently in like a long-term relationship with a woman. She has 2 kids. It's like most of my life is now kid stuff. So, and it's like it's a whole network of people that I certainly didn't know.
It's back. It's right back to networking, and that's where you.
And talk about passion, though. It's like, again, it's like-minded individuals. We're all here for the same thing, whether it's the soccer or it's like fundraising, and it's about the kids,
right? Right.
And so it's a collective. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
Really good.
But I always, felt sorry for these parents who had to put kids through private school here because it's just like ridiculous.
It's crazy.
No, it's ridiculous.
He knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and how you have to get, there's somebody just to help you get them into school that you pay dearly for. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and hopefully the results are good. You don't. It's a little bit of a gamble, right?
Don't get me going on tax dollars, but like DC public schools, highest price per student in the country.
Yeah,
and this, the public schools are not that great. That's why private schools
are
so
podcast, man.
No, exactly.
For sure.
That's why I was like, I don't want to get into that right now.
That's why a lot of people are moving to Montgomery County or Northern Virginia.
Services and schools are, they seem to know what they're doing.
Again, I'm from West Virginia, small town public school, K through 12. But when you do that 12 years, 13 years counting kindergarten times 50,000 a pop, that's insane. I mean, it's just insane.
It's a lot. It's a lot of money.
Well, that's okay. So this is like the kind of detachment from reality that I think the three of us see a lot with the kind of markets we work in. We're dealing with clients who are purchasing houses that like take an AU Park house, right? That used to cost $800,000 not long ago, and now it's $1.9 million.
Yeah. And
then they have 2 children or 3 children, and they're they might be going to private school already, and there's a lot of affordability stuff going on here.
So I think my biggest regret in real estate was not buying houses in Burleith.
I know, right?
It was $84,000, because it was all tenant occupied. You couldn't give them away, and look how that.
Well, even Burleith and Glover Park, for example, like when I first started in the business, you could buy a townhouse in Glover Park for like $350,000.
Yep.
Within 3 years of when I started, they were $700,000.
Exactly.
And now 1.3 for something that needs work.
No, exactly.
So
that's a neighborhood where I was like, God, I could have really racked up.
I was further east. I was in LaDroit Park when I started. We could buy homes for like $300,000.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
It was crazy, and now they're going for roughly 1.5.
What year was it? What year was that?
It was early 2000s.
Yeah, when I remember showing houses in LaDroit, what they call Bloomingdale now, they were like $90,000 when I first started.
Did you have children? You didn't have children.
We didn't have children until 2013.
Yeah.
We lived in 12 different homes in the last 13, 14 years.
Yeah.
So similar to you, it's like someone comes and buys, or they want something special and unique. Here's something.
Yeah.
It gets harder with kids.
Yeah,
no doubt.
For sure.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, it just reminded me of how much, all of that area has changed, just east of 17th Street. And we would get, we would get a couple calls to list, back in the 90s, in 1500 block of Swan.
Mm-hmm.
I think Wallace Tutt had done a big project. Wallace was a developer back then.
Yeah.
Right.
But he would go into those areas, and I just remember how, scarily tough it was.
Yeah.
And you couldn't give them away. When I started, it took 2 or 3 years to sell a house. Anything.
What I was thinking, I want to go back to the condo market thing. So, obviously, you shifting gears and living in these buildings has given you the insight and the knowledge. You really know those buildings inside and out. You've lived in them. I know that a lot of realtors, especially with some of the newer condo product, they were there for the original sales, or they were the broker, for a lot of the original sales. So that's how they get into that market. But I didn't realize that it was just because you had moved over there, literally.
Yeah, it's like 22 West. I think I've probably sold almost every unit in there. So are you generally like a first call then for pretty much any seller in there? They just know that you know the building and they feel comfortable. Here's what I'm going to say to that is out of sight, out of mind. that's why I think business kind of follows you wherever you go. And I think, and I truly believe this, if I were to move, I don't, that business would go away because I see these people every day. But yes, I have agents who call me like, hey, we're looking for this,
Of course.
which is great. I love that.
I think it's a brilliant business model too. Like I think, is it Leonard Steinberg?
Yes.
With Compass?
Yes.
There was a story about him. Like he moved into 15 Central Park West, which is the most expensive, 10,000 a square foot
Super expensive
building up there. He bought the cheapest unit in the building and just ran the building.
Yeah.
He owned it. And I've told agents across the board, like, you could do that in DC on a smaller level. Like, go buy the cheapest unit in the most expensive building or a expensive building and just own the building.
That's what I'm trying to get my team to
do that,
to pay for my my mortgage or rent or whatever.
Are you doing anything to stay in front of them, like flyers, mailers, emails?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like we do a newsletter probably 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay.
A nice one.
And it's just for the building?
It's building specific.
Yeah.
And it's good, and it keeps your name out there, but we do a really nice one. For me, it's like it needs to be perfect to go out the door. Like I just don't send stuff out the door. It's like it's got to be really well done, and there's an image of that in my head of what it needs to be.
Did you ever think of jumping ship to Southwest and going into the wharf?
So I have to believe in what I sell, and I just do. You never have to wonder what I'm thinking because you could read the expression on my face for sure. But the wharf, I just I think it's great. I think the buildings are amazing. But it's like an area of DC where you're just stuck there.
Yes.
That's and so I just don't think it compares to like West End, Georgetown. West End, most walkable neighborhood, urban upper end neighborhood that there is. It's walking distance, 3 metros, walk to Kennedy Center, walk to Georgetown, walk to DuPont Farmers Market. It's like it was or used to be 20037 was the most all cash transactions in DC. So it kind of tells you who's gone in and out.
Right.
Yeah, my thing with you sound like you're very very not anti-wharf, but it's like something that you can't get into because it's just not what you understand. I am shocked at some of the numbers that I've seen for what they had like the top, like the highest condo sale ever.
Yes. It was
Amaris.
Was it 15
right around
something like that.
Million.
Yeah, crazy.
But
and those buyers, obviously looked at a few things that I had, and I was just like, but.
Yeah, parking down there is a nightmare. We were there for
go
brunch.
Just go hang out there for.
It took me 20 minutes to get out of the garage. I kept going in circles. I did not know how to get out of the garage.
It's not a very convenient neighborhood.
Ari, my girlfriend, God bless her, she's always like, let's go do this, let's go do that. So something comes up the Anthem. I'm like, whew, how are we gonna get there exactly? Yeah. Like, what we have to take an Uber?
They're nice, they're beautiful, and they have to be
right.
To get people to go there. I think, like with everything, I think eventually it'll become something, but it's not I just think
it's not as interconnected.
It's not exactly. It's I think it's a very hard thing to change there because it's not an easy in and out of the city. It's not a very walkable neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's like a little peninsula.
Exactly. And so you're kind of, it's like back in the day when we worked Northwest DC, we never went to Capitol Hill. Like you never saw it. Capitol Hill was Capitol Hill, Georgetown, and was Georgetown, and you just didn't go back and forth. It was like, what? You're on Capitol Hill,
right?
But that's how.
Is that a reference to me?
No,
it's like what?
No, but it's like he's right though. Like I remember
it was like crossing the river to go to Virginia.
It's still like that. I mean, I can tell you, we have a Brokers Open Thursday at in Capitol Hill, right next to Eastern Market. And I told the agent, I'm like, nobody from Northwest is coming over here. They're only coming over here if they like us. They're not coming over to see this condo. They're just not going to do it. It's going to be the Capitol Hill agents.
It's gotten better, but it's always been It's always been that way.
Right.
And it's just, I think some things just never change. And it's just like crossing the river. People would rather go to Maryland than go to Virginia, even though you can get the same thing, and probably for less money in Virginia.
Right.
But there's a mental block crossing the river.
The weird thing about Capitol Hill for me is like most of my business is Northwest DC, obviously, but like occasionally like I'll have like a little like a bunch of like small things happen at once in a location like that. Like I had one year where I did like 5 transactions in a row in Penn Quarter.
Same.
You know what I mean?
Same thing.
And then Capitol Hill, like I'll do like 3 in a row in Capitol Hill, and then nothing for the rest of the year. Or
Same
something.
thing.
I don't know why.
It's no, but it's
Realtor weird.
interesting. But yeah, today it's probably still the same. Like there's something on Capitol Hill, I'm probably not gonna, and it's not an area that I really know. And that's the other thing. Like my business model was, obviously you get people who want to go to different neighborhoods, and like I said earlier, it's like I have to believe and know what it is that I'm selling. And so, if people wanted to go to Bethesda or Potomac, I'm not an expert in Bethesda or Potomac. So I'd go find who in our company, this is, Washington Properties Part O, who can I team this with and let them take,
You still do that today?
I still do that today.
That's smart.
It's about the client. It's not so much about the sale, because that sale will come threefold back to you.
There's been a lot more like luxury transactions in Capitol Hill, but we don't really find like that you're going to have a buyer who's looking in Georgetown or Calorama and then also Capitol Hill.
Right. Exactly right. I love Capitol Hill actually.
Yeah, it's
Me
a
too.
quaint little neighborhood.
Yeah. No, it's I think it's great.
Well, okay. Tell us more about your team now. At Compass, like how many people are on your team? How do you guys separate the powers and
Sure,
everything?
we're very old school, so
Okay.
not a whole lot's changed. So I have 3 other agents with me. Brad, who's been worked with me. Brad was my assistant for 15 years, I think, and has become an agent. Have DJ Garish and then Kayla Venners, and so just 3 people on the team, and we kind of split it up where. I'm sort of the face of the business. Brad's kind of the administrative, make sure, because I don't want to say I'm not detailed, but I get lost in the little details.
Right.
Like here's what
DocuSigns
we're doing, this
and
is what we're
forms,
offering,
right.
make sure everything else,
Yeah.
is complies. And so Brad's very good about that. And then DJ is more social media, stuff like that, which we have been doing a lot more of. I'm not really sure how to measure that business. I don't know if you guys do or not, but how do you measure what you put into social media, what comes back to you?
I mean, if I have a lead that comes directly from social media, then I can say like, okay, I got a lead from social media, but otherwise,
Right.
I wouldn't
Right.
know, because it goes so wide. And I look at my audience, for example, on TikTok, and I could go through those followers. It's like, I don't know any of these people.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Like if you're sending a mailer to like 22 West, you know exactly who is going to be looking at it.
And they're on the phone.
Yeah.
I just got your mailer.
Mhm.
Mailers are still like that's why anything I put out the door, and I do probably, I'd say maybe 8, 9 mailings a year, but they're good ones. Like I'll spend money on the packaging, I'll spend money on how it looks and
Yeah.
those things. But
Keep it focused.
that's the most successful, I think, marketing still,
yeah.
Yeah.
for sure.
I agree.
And it's you're the face of the building. It's when people get the mailer from, I've always been told, and I see it just from our own business, if it shows their neighborhood or their building, they're more inclined to open it up and read it versus
Absolutely.
me sending a Capitol Hill piece to Georgetown. They could
No
care
doubt.
less.
And that's why we do it building specific.
Right.
And so it might cost you a little more money to do that, but I think it's worth the extra money. And then Kayla Venners is, I think she's been with us now for maybe a year and a half, and we needed to have a female come in and kind of shake us up a little bit.
Softer touch.
And she does. She's tough.
I want to change gears a little bit.
Sure.
A little bit of time left. You recently had a health scare, and that someone told me about it. I saw you at the gym a little bit later, but can you kind of give us just a little bit of overview, as comfortable as you are? Because a lot of people have health situations.
Sure.
Like how you handled it with the clients, everything.
Sure. So long and short, and very surprising to me, because as you guys know, I go to the gym every day, went to Barry's boot camp 3 times a week.
I used to see you in like Soul Cycle,
Soul
like
Cycle
screaming,
every day.
like you were intense.
Every day, twice a day.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And anyway, long and short, went to have my annual physical in January, and what came out of it was I had 2 100% blocked arteries, needed to have open heart surgery, triple bypass, like immediately, and so did that. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to really deal with clients so much, but I brought the team together and said, all right, guys, this is the real deal. You're not going to hear from me for a long time. You guys need to take the reins and run with it, because I'm not. This is a whole different, because it scared the hell out of me. I'm
So
like,
how long were you down? A couple weeks, months?
I'm still somewhat down. Like I still, that was February 27th, I think. I didn't probably come out of the apartment for a month.
You're just feeling weak from everything.
Most painful experience I've ever been through. But because when they cut you here, and they take the vein, they don't always take the vein from here. They took the vein from here to go in here. This is just wired back together, and so you feel you have to sleep on your back for a month. I think I'll be out of the clear in like 2 more weeks.
So you're not doing any gym exercise?
I am doing gym.
Oh, you are?
I am, but I got yelled at this week, so
Not
reprimanded.
Not like 180 beats per minute. on the Soul
No,
Cycle.
exactly. But it's like it's like I'm one of those people where I have to move, and it's a mental.
Totally.
It's a mental
Me too,
thing for me.
yeah.
And it's like I go to the office every day. I have to go to the office every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, so as clients would call in, we would decide whether we wanted to tell them, because usually I'm the one talking to them.
Right.
And so I think as people called in, we slowly said, hey, this is what's going on. If this can wait, or how can we help you? Or it went fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, get your physical.
Yeah.
I keep up with that.
Because I was like, you guys have the wrong person. It was like that's what I really believed. I was like, they screwed this up somehow.
But see, it's crazy, right? Because you're definitely one of the most in shape guys I know, probably in this whole business.
I'm yeah.
Yeah.
And it's genetic.
Well, maybe
and
that's what saved you from-
I'm adopted, so it was genetic, and so I really didn't know that there was any,
Well, maybe like being in good physical shape is what saved you.
It
from
did.
just
It
like
was actually the surgeon said that specifically. It's like when they were like, okay, you're having open heart surgery, it's like you don't know how lucky you are to be here. It's like anybody else with this would not be here today.
That's
like,
so scary.
God bless, man.
As
Yeah.
we get older, it's like, because it's the unknown, like physically fit, eating right, living right, and next thing you know, it's like.
So it
blocked arteries.
definitely puts a different perspective on things in life, and it I think with any major surgery, you definitely second guess what's important
No doubt.
in life, and so I think that's kind of what I'm going through right now. It's like, okay, this is real, and this can happen. It's like, okay, how do I really want to spend every day?
Right.
And that's where I am right now. Like, what's going to make me happy?
Right on. Yeah. Good stuff, man.
Yeah,
Thank you for
this
sharing
is
that.
great. It's like a little family.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Love it.
We didn't even get into the Greenbrier.
No, I
South
wanted
Beach.
to get into Greenbrier
Greenbrier
because
politics.
I have one friend who, the Cronins, who live up at I don't know if you know them, Dan and Julie. They have a house almost up to the top of the summit.
The summit.
And she comes to honors with me every year at the Kennedy Center. And so she called me this past week and to kind of fill me in, because she didn't know that I knew what was going on there. And I was like, wow,
Okay, yeah.
it's a little bit of a mess. But I was telling Max, he didn't know I was at the Greenbrier as well, and I was
He
like,
was my neighbor at the Greenbrier.
I
Neighbor being like probably a mile.
yeah,
down the
no,
road.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
always see when they were coming in.
Right.
But it was like for me, it was like one of the most magical places for me. It was, I don't know why, and it was just it was amazing to me until COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was there by myself, and it was like, this is not where I want to be.
Right.
This is not where I'm going to be. You know, I was going crazy. But yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, Patrick, thank you for sharing everything with
Pleasure.
us. Thank you for coming down today.
Pleasure.
Brent's got the rapid fire questions for you.
Sure. Shoot.
Rapid fire. So, what book are you currently reading, or do you recommend?
No book, and I do audiobooks, and I used to do audiobooks driving to the Greenbrier, and
Right.
so I haven't done that in a while. So I'm no current books at the moment.
What are you currently binge watching?
Palm Royale, and which is hysterical.
Royale,
Yeah. I binge watch a lot of things.
Favorite vacation spot?
Mykonos, Greece.
Mykonos, Greece. Favorite hobby?
Favorite hobby is probably, gym is like a hobby to me.
The gym.
Yeah.
That's your lifestyle.
It is.
That's-
It is a lifestyle, and it's I'll go crazy if I can't do something.
Last live concert you attended?
Whew. Big one or a small one?
Big one.
Gosh, I'm trying to. Beyonce.
Oh, Beyonce
Yeah.
at FedEx.
Yeah. So we last minute we got like fourth row,
Right.
Nice.
literally the day of, and it was really really good. Getting there was horrible. Like I had
Oh,
never
yeah.
been to Fed. It was
You'd never even been there?
No.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it
it's
was
not
ma-
very fun to get to.
No, and we got there. It took us 2 hours to actually get into the seats.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy.
Nightmare.
But yeah.
Last one. What's your go-to restaurant in the West End?
So in West End, I actually like the St. Gregory, the lobby of the St. Gregory, and I don't know but it's a really cute boutique. They redid the lobby, and actually the food's really good. Service is a little slow. But if my favorite restaurant in DC is the Dabney, which is
9th Street.
Nice
Yeah.
Street.
Mm-hmm.
Or Fio Lamar or Cafe Milano.
Yeah. Those are all good.
Old standbys.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right, man. Thanks for coming down.
Thanks,
Super.
Good to
Thanks
see
guys
you.
for having me. It was awesome.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at keyedinpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Rabin Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRabin_properties.